and welcome to Crypto TV. I'm your host, Ornella Hernandez, here to talk all things Web3 and crypto. Today's topic is SocialFi, and we're going to talk about content creators. So we have a special guest today. You don't want to miss it. What exactly is SocialFi? It stands for social finance, and it's technology that meets at the convergence of social media and decentralized finance, or DeFi. It's not really a new concept, but there have been many applications and platforms out there that have tried to improve the way that creators monetize themselves, namely by making it a direct exchange between those creators and their consumers or fans. And there's a new app in town. It's called Fantasy.Top. I keep seeing posts about it all over my X feed. So today, we're gonna talk about it. Let's start with what it is. We'll look at the name first. Fantasy.Top. Automatically, my brain thinks fantasy sports, which is not far off because players can compete by building lineups of digital cards. The distinction is that these cards don't represent athletes. Instead, each digital card represents a real-world influencer or a content creator. And players can score points based on the influencer's actual Twitter or X engagement. Here's how it works. Step one is for players to collect or trade these crypto influencer cards or NFT trading cards that represent various crypto content creators, and they are called heroes. Step two is to create the lineup. Players aim to assemble a team of influencers who they believe will generate the most X engagement. Then points are awarded based on the actual X engagement of these influencers, and the strategy is that players can trade cards on the platform in order to optimize their lineups as the popularity of these influencers changes and their engagement levels change, because they surely will fluctuate, of course. So there are even competitions or matches where players' lineups are pitted against each other with rewards for the top performing lineups. And those with the winning lineups receive rewards such as cryptocurrency, NFTs, and other incentives. There's already been one tournament, and the winner was announced last night. Shout out to Marcel, whose X handle is 0xMarcelETH, who won 32.187 gold. He mentions the Blast jackpot because Fantasy.Top runs on the Ethereum layer 2 called Blast. That's why Marcel also shouts out to Crypto Valley, which is another project built on the Blast layer 2, in addition to Fantasy.Top, of course. Now, if we look at DeFi Llama, we see that the total value locked, or TVL, for Blast is at $1.5 billion. And most of that recent influx is due to Fantasy.Top. Now, gold is just one type of reward for being a player, in addition to earning more cards or card packs, fan points, and stars. And since they just launched, they have been giving away a lot of these card packs. So this has definitely boosted its numbers. If we look at Flipside data, we can see that so far in the past 4 days, there has been over 9,000 ETH in trading volume, which is about $27,700,000 US, and there are nearly 30,000 users with a few hundred users every day. And if we look at DApp Radar data, then we can see that the trading volume of Fantasy.Top has put it above all other major NFT collections like Bored Ape Yacht Club and Pudgy Penguins for now. The numbers look good, but this could all be due to hype. As most things in crypto, the shiny new toy reigns at the beginning until something shinier and bigger grabs our attention. So will Fantasy.Top succeed, or is it crypto's next flop? Only time will tell. The good thing is that ETH fees are lower this cycle, so that is one good thing playing in its favor. I tried signing up, actually. You have to connect to your X account, obtain and submit an access code, and then deposit just a couple dollars worth of Ether into the money pool to access it. And this is all great for crypto people, but it limits the amount of non-crypto native people who may not be familiar with the hundreds of steps that it takes to do any crypto transaction, it seems. And it reminds me a lot of Friendtech, which launched last August and really set off the explosion of social apps that we see today. Friendtech was built on Coinbase's Layer 2 base and features chat rooms associated with an individual's X account that are gated by keys, and anyone can purchase these keys to gain access to the chats. The price is determined through a bonding curve mechanism. It was basically a popularity contest, and the hype lasted only a couple months. Let's see how the TVL is doing now. It's at about $12 million, and it never even reached $1 billion like Fantasy.Top did in just its first week. But there's still a lot of activity on Frantic, of course. Personally, however, I would just like it to be a little easier to use these SocialFi platforms, or all crypto platforms for that end. And there is no denying a wildly successful launch, but the key will be to maintain that success. And some people on X have voiced some concerns, like Whale Mocha, who tweeted some warnings. He said that up only will not work forever. As soon as the trend reverses, it can quickly get ugly, as cards are very illiquid. And he references the very popular basketball NFT trading platform, NBA Top Shot, which had a major decline in sales recently. And then he questions whether it will still remain fun if it ends up being all about the rewards for both the players and the creators. He goes on to say that attention is at an all-time high right now because, well, we live in an attention economy, so eventually people will move on, he warns. And he advises at the end to only spend what you can afford to lose. Good reminder, Whale Mocha. Personally, I too question the viability of the platform. It says it's supposed to be a game that is supposed to be fun, but is it really? It's basically turning creators into fantasy sports assets. Given the financial aspect, this could easily lead to people turning on creators who have not performed well enough. It's like when you bet on an athlete in real life, or even on a fantasy team, and you lose money when he or she loses, then people can get really ugly and mean, especially on X and on the internet. So if they are getting treated differently, then I would think that this might make creators feel a lot of pressure from their holders and in turn affect the quality of their content. You know, this makes me think of that Black Mirror episode from season 3 called Nosedive. Do you guys remember that? It was set in a world where people can rate each other from 1 to 5 stars for every interaction that they have using their smartphones. And this can impact, their rating can impact their socioeconomic status. So it affects their ability to rent an apartment or a car, to travel to a certain destination, or it affects your work. And it definitely affects how people perceive and treat you based on your rating. Because in this Black Mirror episode, people didn't want to associate with others with lower ratings. Now, this was filmed in 2016. Now it's 8 years later, and we're in a world where this type of behavior is slowly becoming a reality. I know that Fantasy.Top is about rewarding creators and influencers, which at the end of the day is how some of them make their livelihoods. But very soon, it could lead to us rating each other for everyday interactions like in the Black Mirror episode, and not just for their posts or their tweets or photos anymore. So this is a bit unnerving to me. I don't know what you guys think. Are you guys as nervous about this as I am? I'd like to hear what you all think. Let me know in the comments. Does Fantasy.Top sound enticing to you? Are you already a user of Fantasy.Top or some other SocialFi app? Or is it otherwise just not your cup of tea? Let me know in the comments. And before we get to today's special guest, I'll give you a brief intro on who I will be interviewing. His name is Michael O'Connor, and he leads a company called Today. The execs describe Today as a next-generation social simulation game that infuses generative AI with Hollywood-caliber storytelling to create a dynamic, fluid, and ever-changing experience for its players, so it says. So basically, it's an indie video game studio, and Today is their first simulation game. Think The Sims for reference. In the Today universe, however, players build their own virtual worlds called islands, in which they care for their residents or NPCs, non-playing characters, who become their island companions. And players are empowered with creative control and full ownership of whatever they build. Today was co-founded by Michael and Oscar-winning writer-director Benjamin Cleary, and built alongside a veteran team from Nintendo, Sega, Epic Games, and Unity. So basically, they leverage AI tools to make user-generated video games. Now, let's hear more about it directly from Michael. Welcome, Michael, to Crypto TV. You are the co-founder and CEO of the independent gaming studio Today. Happy to have you on. How are you today?
I'm really well, Ornella. It's great to be here.
Yeah, you actually were recently in Dubai. You are now calling from Lisbon. You were visiting for the Token 2049. Shame that we didn't get a chance to talk, but happy that we get to have a conversation today. But tell me how your time in Dubai was.
It was really interesting. It was the first time I was there, so I really enjoyed it. I was like pretty much blown away by the architecture and just the overall vibe over there was amazing. It was a bit tricky because the floods. So I arrived in on the first day, and there was like a lot of kind of kerfuffle in the airport, but it sorted itself out, and yeah, I had a great time.
Okay, yeah, I know we all had to deal with those unfortunate floods and storms. It was not ideal for a week that had, like, I want to say over 200 events scheduled in the city. So that was chaos, but glad that you were able to enjoy your time. I really wanted to learn more about your company. Today, it's an independent gaming studio, but you guys leverage AI tools, artificial intelligence tools, for your video games. So would love to get into that. But first, just a quick yes or no question for you. Are we living in a generative AI world already?
Are we living in a generative AI world already? I wouldn't say so. I don't think that the full impact of what generative AI will do to art, culture, society broadly. I think we're kind of only tipping the iceberg of it now, and what will proceed over the next couple of months and over the next couple of years will have a kind of a paradigm change on how we live our lives.
Yeah, okay. So for now, the tools like ChatGPT or like prompts or text to art or video, it's still very early stages, you'd say then?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of very nascent industry. Really, the emergence of large language models have really kind of begun to find a way to impact certain industries, but I think it's going to permeate its way into more industries and into more culture, and overarchingly, I think it's going to have a net positive for society.
Okay, so I'd love to hear then how you guys are leveraging those types of tools at today to create video games. If you could just start off by telling us a little bit more about the creation and the foundation behind the company.
Yeah, sure. So my background is I was a producer at Nintendo. I moved to Sega. So I kind of produced lots of games there. And I started my company with my co-founder, who's like a pal of mine from 30 years ago from Dublin in Ireland, where I'm from. And he actually went into film. He won an Oscar in 2017 for his film Stutterer, and recently made it like a nice sci-fi film called Swan Song. And we basically started our company because we're obsessed by how emerging technologies can impact the future of virtual worlds and culture and society and storytelling. And that's like what we just speak about all the time. We're obsessed by that. So we started our company to explore those ideas, and today is our kind of core exploration. So today is a social simulation game, and in today you're going to be able to design and build your own virtual worlds. So you can use like generative AI, like voice or text prompt, to create really beautiful architecture and interior design, like all in 3D. And then using more kind of standard game tools, like for folks who like, No Man's Sky or games like The Sims or Valheim, you're going to be able to craft those generative structures so you can manually sculpt them in really fun ways. So really what we're interested in is giving people the power to be able to build beautiful worlds in a way that they've never had before. But they're not just building the worlds. They're also building a community of AI NPCs. And this is where it gets kind of particularly interesting. So NPCs are non-player characters, and they're like these people, essentially, who live in the worlds. You can speak to them, and they've got like long-term memory, their awareness of their surroundings, and they live inside the virtual world. And what we're really interested in is building relationships between players and those AI NPCs.
Okay, I love it. Let's get into that a little bit more then. Before you mentioned The Sims, that's honestly what I would already was going through my mind if it was comparable to that type of world. And I wanted to also ask about this idea of user-generated content. So basically, these are gamers, users, anyone who goes into today can make their own Is it like mini games, or how exactly does it work? I want to just understand a little bit more about how that looks like exactly for a gamer to go into the today world.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, The Sims is an interesting reference. So we're a simulation game in the same way The Sims is a simulation game, so we share that genre. And as a fan of simulation games myself, one of the things that we've always wanted in these games is more realism, more intelligence with the simulated beings. We've wanted ways of actually feeling deeper senses of connection, of more realistic stories, more realistic behaviors, more wacky situations that you can immerse in. And now we have it, right? Because the emergence of AI provides that level of immersion. And really, that's what we're exploring. So imagine the next generation of what The Sims is and building connections with these simulated beings. And that's really what the game is all about for us.
It's interesting how you say that we need more technology or AI tools in order to experience deeper, realer connections and more immersion. That kind of feels like two things that wouldn't go together, but maybe for video games it does, in your views?
Yeah, I think, well, developing tool sets that connect people further into the story and into the depth of characters is a way for us to build immersion inside of games. In the same way, like when you think about it, we all feel connected to these fictional beings, even in like in a movie, right? We feel connected to fictional beings, but instead, a movie is very, one-way traffic, right? It's just we watch a movie. But when you're able to interact, and when those interactions are really compelling, it creates the opportunity for emotional connection.
Okay, fair point. I'll have to play today though to be able to fully come to that conclusion, I think. What stage are you at already in the development?
Yeah, we've been building for like a year and a half now, and we're going to be able to. We've kind of been bringing the game to our community a lot already, and that's been going amazingly well. We've got a community of like 250,000 people already with us on this journey, so that's cool. And yeah, so I think like in this June we're going to bring a new version of the game to the community, so they can try it, and they can tell us the things they love, and they can tell us the things they hate too. And the overall release of the game we're targeting Q1 of next year.
Okay, so early 2025.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, we're going to bring it to what we call early access to give the kind of first wave of players like public release.
Okay, and I have to ask: is there any blockchain technology at all, or in-game NFT digital assets in the game?
Yeah, that's really important to us, and it actually harkens back to your point about UGC content and the importance of UGC content in these worlds. So people are able to build all this amazing stuff basically inside of today. They're able to build all sorts of cosmetics, they can build aspects of interactive experiences, and what we really believe in is the opportunity for players to own all of those assets away from us if need be. So what intrigues us about being a Web3 company is empowering players to have full control and ownership of their assets and being able to trade them or edit them or take them even away from our platform and put them somewhere else. Really what we're interested in is providing that level of gameplay and socioeconomic power to players so they can mint everything in our world and they can trade it. And there's a huge market economy that exists for that as well. So yeah, we're really passionate about what the future of virtual worlds look like when people have this convergence of the creative tool set to make amazing things from AI, but also the socioeconomic power that is enabled by crypto.
Yes, definitely. I agree with you there. And that leads me to ask if one thing is the users, right? If they're able to participate in these types of metaverse creations or video game creation. But then what about the engineers and all the developers behind the games? Like, where does that leave them if now users are making content using AI? Like, I know that in the gaming industry right now, there's been a lot of layoffs from major studios, from EA, Microsoft, Riot Games. So where does that leave you guys? Like, how are you guys dealing with that?
Yeah, good question. I mean, it's increasingly easy to make great things because of AI. And overarchingly, I see this as a positive. The democratization of creativity is what we call it. So, likewise, when, just as a brief aside, used to be really difficult to make music, right? You had to spend tens of thousands of dollars to go into a studio, and you need to have the connections, and you need to have a record label. And then in the 90s, basically, people figured out that you could do bedroom recordings, and it revolutionized music. And all of a sudden, everyone could become a musician. So this democratization of music was, I think, a very positive aspect of a cultural change. And what we're seeing now is through the empowerment of people to be able to use complex tools in easy ways, more people can create great things. And that, for me, is just a massive net benefit for our culture. What it does mean is it's going to create challenges for people like me who've dedicated their lives to game development. And some of the things that I've learned will just be as easy as clicking a button and it will just be done. Whereas before it might have taken 6 months. Mm-hmm. So it requires all of us to be able to be flexible and adaptive and open-minded towards the future. But I look at it from a macro perspective, and the macro perspective is positive cultural change empowered by the democratization of creativity.
Okay, and I guess it also maybe levels the playing field between smaller studios like yourself and the major giants that I mentioned before. And especially when it comes to the world of Web3 or blockchain technology, you guys can also compete at a higher level. But how would you rate then the current state or current ecosystem of indie Web3 games? Do we think there are some really fun ones out there so far, or what do you think, besides today, of course?
Well, first of all, that's a great point, that the leveling of the playing field point that you made is absolutely right. It's a total game changer that, smaller companies can compete with larger corporates as a result of these changes. And I think for us, we're really intrigued about what that's going to mean. Already, there are some great games, I think, emerging inside of the Web3 industry. I think the first wave of games inside of Web3 were not so good, to be honest with you. But the newest wave that we're now seeing coming to the fore, I think there's a lot of interesting things happening. So I'm positive, but frankly, we're still yet to see a game really push through and kind of cement a really strong global audience. That is something that's able to tap into a more mainstream part of culture. We're still kind of waiting on that as an industry, and we're kind of dedicated to being one of those teams that is going to do exactly that.
Okay, amazing. And when it comes to ownership, I guess, what are other important attributes or traits that you think we need to see more of when it comes to the creation of games? What tips would you give basically to these users or to gamers who are trying to leverage these tools?
Yeah, I think, one thing that we need inside of Web3 games, broadly speaking, is more players. So we need more people with more wallets. We want more people onboarded into crypto.
That's step one, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So that's also a bit of a chicken before the egg, right? The way that we get the people in is to provide a compelling experience for them to be involved in the first place, right? So, I think we need more products out there that can tap into mainstream culture and provide innovative solutions that resonate with people from a product perspective. I think while we want more wallets, I think the key towards bringing more wallets is more product innovation, more ways to leverage blockchain technology, AI, in order to be able to improve on the competitors that don't use those technologies.
I agree with you there. I also think we need to maybe simplify some of these tools and the onboarding tools, at least, in order to get more people to sign up and get into this world. Now, I am curious to hear your thoughts on the current metaverse ecosystem. So I'm talking about the Sandbox or Decentraland, or those established metaverse platforms that they say they want to be gaming metaverses, but there's a lot that can be improved. So I'm just curious to take your thoughts on that as well, because metaverses or video games are in a way metaverses, but there's a distinction there. So I just want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the concept of what a metaverse can be, in the sense that I like the idea of interconnected virtual worlds whereby you're able to take your assets and ideas and gameplay and history around those different digital worlds through interoperability. I think that concept is excellent, and I think that in some sense, I think that concept is inevitable as well. And the first wave of products that we've seen, obviously, Zuckerberg invested heavily to try to fuel that, especially through the Meta and Oculus and all of the whole VR industry, broadly speaking. In Web3, I'd say in the last cycle, the emergence of Sandbox and Decentraland was very important, I think, for that. I think so far they've had some struggle trying to attract players into those worlds en masse. And I hypothesize that may be because there is a greater requirement of compelling gameplay to attract users en masse into virtual worlds. I believe that those Sandbox, for example, are aiming to address that. So I can't speak to how they manage their design or manage their company. But teams like that have also been very successful in being able to hype, tokens and develop alternative business models, I would say. So all power to them. I'm certainly interested in building a future that's driven by fun gameplay that creates opportunities for interconnectivity across virtual worlds.
Definitely. All right. So, Michael, what is next then in this intersection between gaming or Web3 gaming and artificial intelligence tools?
I think for me, the most compelling and interesting aspect of it is about what the impact of emotional connection with AI NPCs has inside of video games, and what it's like when people are able to work with those NPCs inside of video games. For example, what is it like if some of those NPCs are able to act on your behalf on chain, right? What if you say to one of your NPCs, hey, I'd love if you could look into this type of token that does this, and I'd love if you could find a strategy that gives me the ability to invest here, but then divest here. So there's all sorts of really interesting, let's call it like decentralized financial opportunities that exist at the convergence of AI and gaming. But for me, everything stems from emotional connection. If we can bring emotional connection between players and AI NPCs, we have a revolutionary impact on the future of interactive entertainment.
I think that'll require a lot of trust, though. If you say we can entrust our NPC to invest for us, that's like taking a humanoid, right, like a robot, and asking them, okay, handle our portfolio. Like, I really don't think we're at that level yet.
No, we're probably not at that level yet, but we're increasingly at the point whereby the rational brain of the AIs is growing smarter and smarter, and being able to interface with, for example, even just ChatGPT is able to provide you with more concise and arguably useful knowledge than, for example, Googling for that information. So I think for me, the opportunity to, let's say, use AI as the world's greatest creative assistant in what you do as an investor or as a player or as someone who just arguably and really across any industry, having the world's greatest assistant is a very useful tool for us.
Okay, I like that. We'll see what happens. All right, Michael, remind me again what the roadmap is for today in the near future.
Yeah, well, so the roadmap is, we're constantly building. So if folks are interested in the convergence of AI and crypto and gaming, come check us out on Twitter, and you'll always be able to join our journey. We've got tons and tons of different initiatives and NFT drops and all sorts of other really fun things that are doing well. So join that community, or alternatively on Discord. In the future, we've got some a build that's going out to the community. I'd love you actually to play the build. I'll send you the build if you'd be interested, and I'd love to hear your opinions. So yeah, we want people to be able to play. We're very transparent about what we're building. We don't have all the answers, but we're trying to figure out the right questions.
Okay, amazing. Well, keep me updated with the progress of today. I would love to do a demo play, so let me know when that's available. And thank you so much for your time today, Michael. I learned a lot.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, and everyone make sure to check out the Twitter page. All the links are in the description below. And reach out to Michael if you have any questions. And stay tuned for the rest of Crypto TV.
Today in the crypto market, Bitcoin is currently trading at $61,702. Ether's price is at $2,996 today. Sol is trading green today at $145.79. And Toncoin is going up today thanks to Notcoin users. Its price is $6.06.
And that is all for today, folks. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Crypto TV. Make sure to give this video a like and to check out other Web3 TV coverage while you're on our page. Let me know what you think about everything that I spoke today, about Friendtech, about Fantasy.Top, and about all of these new SocialFi apps. And I'll see you guys next week.